You might feel, and I've seen this one a lot, you might feel like it's normal for couples to constantly fight or argue. You might have been taught that your career is the most influential focus of your life. Men are absolutely enthralled by feminine women. It's one of our strengths. Why not make the most of it? Why not be the best we can be? We're women. Women have a lot of power, but the power is through their femininity.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Fascinating Womanhood channel, where we talk about everything that has to do with developing femininity and building strong, long-lasting, loving relationships. I am Cherry Lynn, and I am here with my mom, Dixie Endelin Forsyth. Hi.
Hi.
So we have had a lot of questions over the last couple of years from women who were raised feminist, and they kind of want to embrace femininity more, and they want to enter into this pro-feminine movement going on right now, and they're not really sure how to get started. So we're going to discuss that today. We have 7 tips for how to embrace femininity when you were raised with feminist values. So what kind of feminists are we talking to today? I think it's really important because there's a lot of different things that you think about when you're talking about feminists. So who are we talking to today?
Well, see, this is the problem. I think the biggest problem with the word and the movement feminism is because it's so broad. You can't really pinpoint what that person is. There's women who absolutely hate men and women who don't hate men at all and just embrace certain values of feminism. And there's everything in between. So in a way, to say you're a feminist, no one knows what that means.
Right. I think it's so misunderstood. I think we get the label that we hate feminists and that we have nothing to do with it. And there's actually parts of the traditional early feminism that are not bad, that are okay. So we kind of want to discuss a little bit about that, because if we have anyone in the audience watching that's an extreme feminist, I don't think this video is not for them, right?
Well, if you don't like men, it's going to be a problem. But women have a lot of power, but the power is through their femininity. It's not through trying to be like men. So we're saying, hey, if you want to embrace the feminine and your actual power, because you are a woman, you're not masculine. You're either masculine or feminine. You're not going to be, there's some other third thing. When you embrace your femininity, that's where your greatest strength is. That's where your greatest power is. And your greatest relationships are.
Yeah, I think the women we're talking to today are the ones that genuinely want this lifestyle, and they're just not sure how to get started.
Well, who doesn't want to be happy? And that's what we're all about.
When we're talking about feminism, what exactly are we talking about? Like, what this woman that was raised feminist, can we just discuss a little bit or describe what that household may have looked like growing up and what you might be used to, just to kind of get everyone.
Well, from what we get, a woman who is raised feminist, saying it is kind of like that's an issue and what do I do about it, is you may resent men, not trust men. You might not understand the true value of men. There's quite a few more than I would think that have never been around a good man, ever. Relatives, nothing. So you kind of can be sympathetic to that. You might think that men and women should be the same and that there's really no difference. And that's just not true. You might think marriages are always doomed, like they have a lifespan. And sometimes you'll see on TV a show and they'll say, well, their marriage ran its course. And I think, what do you mean? What course?
Oh, come now, Lucy. Every marriage reaches a point where the honeymoon's over.
Yeah, our honeymoon was over on our honeymoon.
Well, their parents probably didn't have the healthiest.
Probably not.
Say that all feminist families, they're broken families, but
no,
maybe marriage wasn't romantic or wasn't really happy, or maybe there was a broken situation. But I think broken relationships is a possibility within that feminist kind of.
It's real common. It's really common. Okay, you might think that being a successful woman needs to look the same as being a successful man, which it's kind of a little bit related to the one of men and women are the same. You might have never seen, we talked about this before, what a happy marriage looks like. You may have had no role model in your life to realize that marriage can be romantic your entire life. You might feel, and I've seen this one a lot, you might feel like it's normal for couples to constantly fight or argue. I've talked to couples where the woman says her husband says it's a sign of a happy marriage if you fight all the time. If you don't, you're hiding stuff. So that husband has never seen it. And by the way, you have to take that into a consideration. Your man may never have seen a happy marriage. Okay, so it goes both ways. You might have been taught that your career is the most influential focus of your life.
A big one.
It is a big one, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous to relationships. You might not have ever known or been close to a feminine woman. You may have no idea what that looks like.
You might be thinking the feminine woman is just this weak, kind of inferior. I've heard ditzy a lot.
It's actually the opposite, but we feel very compassionate to those women because they probably have never seen it.
Right.
So how can you expect someone to know what the ideal woman is like if you've never seen or even seen a character on the screen portrayed as the ideal woman? A lot of feminism, the attitudes of it can create issues for us in navigating through how to have a good relationship.
So now that we've kind of discussed some of the repercussions that feminism might have on you, we're going to talk about 7 tips that we have. There's more than 7, but we just came up with our favorite 7 tips that we have for you as someone in that situation to get started in embracing more of that pro-feminine lifestyle.
Number 1, read our books. Now, I know it sounds like we're plugging our books, but the reason I wrote Timeless is so that we don't have to keep saying it, or so you can actually study this. It took years to write it, and everything is in there in the order, and you can study, you can underline it. And the reason I put Timeless first is because it's so much more broad. It covers so much more than Vintage does. Although Vintage is very good, it's basic stuff, but Timeless has so much more that can help you. So, and the workbooks and all of it is designed to help you, and then also practice the principles that we talk about in there.
I think another one, number 2, is just in general studying femininity. We can suggest a couple of them, but any other things that you can get your hands on that will help you, even if you're just reading novels that celebrate femininity, I think is huge. Just surrounding yourself with studies. And
I've read a couple of novels over the years, and a novel that the author can really flesh out the character of a person, where they've fleshed out a character of a really feminine woman that as I was reading it, I thought I'd like to be more like that person. And even if the person is fictitious, it doesn't mean it's not possible to pattern yourself kind of after that type of character.
I also like biographies.
Yeah, I do too.
Reading biographies, like I read a couple of biographies about Marilyn Monroe. I know she's kind of a controversial person, but there's some really wonderful things that I learned about her. I also read a biography about Lucille Ball. I know she's not the most feminine example, but there are parts to her that are a lot deeper than what we all see. I know you've read biographies about Jeanette MacDonald, and I think
A lot of you have never heard of her, but she was, I really liked Jeanette, but she was in my mother's youth. Human beings throughout history, we don't really change. We think we change a lot, but human nature is basically human nature if you're talking about 1000 AD or today.
Yeah, I think Elizabeth Taylor also has a really great biography. I personally like to read things like that because they're real, and I really like.
I do too. I like real.
More real, but novels are great too. And I think reading those stories and really studying different types of women, stronger women, more feminine women, is really helpful in your journey to kind of discover the power and the strength that women have.
Sometimes you can study about a person and try to learn what is it about them that's so enamored this great leader of history.
Yeah, and if you don't have time to read, audiobooks are amazing.
Right. Yeah,
listen to audiobooks when you're cooking and things like that. Okay. Number 3, surround yourself with feminine groups, feminine women, friends. If you don't have friends in person, that's all right. You can still get online. I think this one is really, really big. This has been a really important one for me. I don't have a lot of women near me, and I know you probably are in a similar situation that believe in the same things. And so getting online, finding support groups, our Facebook group is really, really great.
we have some great women
Yeah.
To me, ladies are absolutely amazing. You inspire us. And there's some great women all over the world that are wonderful and want the same things. We're not really that different. Even though we sometimes come from different cultures, we want almost exactly the same things. We want to have good marriages. We want to protect our families, our loved ones. We want to be happy, safe, all those things.
Yeah, I think it's so hard when you're trying to embrace this new lifestyle. And if it's new for you, I totally can feel that, well, I have nobody around me that believes in the things that I do. And even if you do have friends that don't believe in them, you're around them and it's tough. Really engaging with women that believe in the same things, even if you don't get to see their faces. I know that's so incredibly hard, but just joining in on conversations about the things that you believe in, or that the questions that you have, I think is so, so helpful.
Well, and don't forget, you, all of you out there, as you learn about these principles, you will have a great effect on people around you. Even if you don't say anything about it, you will influence people for good. Your children, your siblings, your friends, even if you never talk about it, you have an influence. Develop feminine hobbies. Now, this doesn't have to be certain things like, oh, you can't have this hobby and you must have that hobby. But there's some things that really help bring it out in us. I mean, it doesn't have to be sewing, although sewing is really valuable, but it can be things like painting, gardening, actually volunteering to help people. Service is really good. Women are really good at that, serving people who are less fortunate. You might say that isn't a hobby, but it very much can be.
Absolutely.
It's very rewarding.
Well, and I think a more common one that we hear is baking and cooking. And I think that's great. But if
we need to eat, we all have to eat something. Well, and another big one is that it really helps your home, your apartment, your tent, wherever you are. Hobbies can be things like decorating, and decorating doesn't have to be expensive. Little things. Look around your house and see some way in this room that you can improve it so it's more attractive.
Yeah, there's so many different things that you can do, but just kind of trying to do that regularly will help, like you said earlier, bring out more of your feminine energy.
Okay, another one is watching movies, which is fun anyway, with visual examples, and choose movies that portray women intelligent and feminine.
Yes, this is really helpful for me. I need visuals. I don't know about you, but I really, really need to see something to really embrace it and learn it. So we're going to put some movies up at the top of the screen that we suggest that you could try to watch.
That we like.
But they don't have to be your favorites. They might not be your favorites. The point here is to find an actress that is feminine, that you can relate to, that you enjoy watching.
Oh, wait, one of the things that is a challenge for me, and maybe for some of you, is a lot of modern movies have so many female characters that are trying to be like men that it isn't actually that helpful. And the attitude in the film industry, in a lot of film industry, not all, tends to be that they think that women want to be portrayed as being as rough and tough as men and being able to kick people around. And it's not only not true, it isn't very inspiring, because we love new movies. Some of these movies are older because it's hard to find new ones.
I think the key here is finding someone that you can identify with. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone that's exactly like you, although that would be great. I know for me, my favorite person to watch is Doris Day. I just really love, and I'm not even really like her at all in my personality, but there's something about her that just makes me feel proud of the feminine movement and to be a part of it. And watching her reminds me of how much I love all of those things. So just find somebody that does that for you. I don't know. I know for a lot of women, it's Audrey Hepburn, but there could also be people that aren't actresses. Like I know we were just talking in our last video about Jackie Kennedy and how inspiring she is to a lot of women. So there's a lot of women out there that you can look up to that were very feminine and were a good example that you can surround yourself with.
And there's women in history that you can read about and look to. So it isn't always in modern films, but a lot of us like to see people in action. It's kind of hard sometimes to say, well, who do I find? So that's why we list the movies that we like. You can begin there and get the idea and then find some of your own that you like to.
A lot of ladies write into us and they say, I don't have anybody. I don't have a role model. I hear this so much. My mother wasn't a role model for femininity. Like, what do? I don't have anybody. Well, I think that's where the movies kind of come in. The books, of course, too, but movies just have that little extra finesse because you can see it.
Well, and I would also recommend finding a picture. It doesn't have to be of a real person. Something that represents what is ideal to you. That's one of the reasons in Fascinating Womanhood we use Art Nouveau, because they use a lot of really feminine characters in there. Get a copy of those. There's posters.com and places you can get copies of these things and frame it and put it somewhere in your house so you can look at this ideal image, even if it's not a real person.
That's a great idea.
And that helps me. The other one is feminine dress. It doesn't have to be a dress, but dress in a feminine manner. And we talk about that in my book. And it can be, you can wear jeans, but wear feminine jeans, wear something else that's really feminine, do something with your hair that's feminine. When you dress feminine, see how you feel dressed that way. Go out somewhere, grocery store some way, and notice the difference in how you feel when you're dressed like that versus when you just throw something on.
Isn't it funny how when you're wearing a dress or certain shoes or I don't know, you just kind of move differently? I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about.
Some women have told us they feel kind of uncomfortable, like everyone's staring at them. That's partly because you're not used to it, partly because people are attracted to it. It doesn't mean they think you're weird. If you'll notice, I notice all the time, I like the way we're dressed like this. I would wear this during the day. I don't just do this for filming this thing. When I go to the grocery store, you know who I get stared at by? Little girls. Little girls. They love it.
Yeah.
And even little boys, little kids, they kind of, and I think it's because it's a little bit, it shouldn't be unusual. And ladies, we're going to try and make it very common.
It's funny that you bring that up about little kids, because yesterday I dropped my little girl off at her nursery school, which is a 2-hour-a-day school that she goes to. And she gets dressed to the nines when she goes. You know her, she wears They have to wear masks right now because of COVID. So she wears a sequin mask. Yesterday, she just so happened to have a sequin mask and gold sequins on her shirt. And she was wearing a backpack that had like all these bright colors on it. And when the teacher picked her up, she said, I love all your sparkles and your sequins. Better wear them now before you get older and you're not allowed to wear them anymore. She looked at me and she goes, am I right or am I right? And I knew what she meant. She meant it's not acceptable or it's kind of frowned upon for us to dress that way. But in a way, the intent behind that comment was when we get older, we have to dress a certain way. And I just thought that was interesting. Why is it acceptable for little girls to celebrate their femininity, whether it be a lot of sparkles, whether it be a rainbows or whatever it is? But when we get older, we're supposed to wear things that are more serious. And I get it was.
Well, I find that curious because I find today more feminine clothes out there than I have ever, and I'm old, and I've found them more now available than any other time in my life. I've had women tell me, I love the way you dress, but I wouldn't dare dress like that. And I think, why not?
I'm not suggesting that you got to wear sequins and rainbows.
Oh, well, that's not my style, but.
Right. I'm just saying that it's okay to get a little dressed up. It's all right. And I think a lot of women out there, when she said that to me, they feel as though they should not dress up. They should not wear the things that make them happy and bring them joy. And if that is sequins in your 50s, wear sequins in your 50s. It's fine. Express that how you want to express it. I don't think that there's age with how you dress, other than modesty. I think modesty.
Audrey Hepburn is famous for the way she dressed. She didn't wear sequins. She wore really classic, elegant clothes, but she was very feminine. She was always and sometimes her hair was really, really short. And she epitomized femininity, and she always dressed feminine. She didn't look like a slob. Because that's what we're talking about here, is for you to be the best you can be as a woman, because that's where you were born.
If you were raised feminist, you're probably used to wearing clothes that don't celebrate femininity as much. And that's okay. You can start small. Maybe you just start with wearing something that's softer than what you normally wear, or something that fits you a little bit more, and to show your assets. Like maybe you just start small with little things, and maybe you don't like pink or you don't look good in pink. That's fine. Maybe you just start small with like wearing things that are a little bit more unexpected. Whatever makes you.
Well, in Fascinating Womanhood, we say accentuate the differences, because we are not men and men are not women. Accentuate the differences. Men are absolutely enthralled by feminine women. It's one of our strengths. Why not make the most of it? Why not be the best we can be? We're women.
I think if you're married, wear things that he likes you in, especially if they're feminine and they kind of follow that lead. So if he really loves it when you wear skirts, find a skirt that you like and wear it for him. And we actually did a video on feminine style, so I can attach that one to here. So
and if you're getting older like me, you don't have to think, well, there's no hope for me. You can look good for your age. The last one is, when you're making this journey towards more your real feminine self, it's a good idea to apologize to your husband when it's appropriate for any misunderstandings you have had of him over that time. As you begin to study these principles and realize, wow, I really goofed up there, or I misunderstood him here, you were suspicious of him just because he was masculine. Apologize for not understanding him and not maybe being there for him, and just simply and sincerely.
Yeah, this is definitely for the married ladies that have, they write into us and they say, I was raised feminist and I discovered Fascinating Womanhood, or I discovered the pro-feminine movement, and what do I do? And this one is really important, because if you are married, your husband, more than likely your marriage is probably not in the best place, and that's why you're seeking out help. And your husband has gone through this time with you where you have potentially been putting him down, nagging him, not admiring him, all those things that we talk about in Fascinating Womanhood, and kind of bringing all this up as a way of starting clean.
There's more men today than ever before who were also raised in a feminist household. That may just be normal for him. It's sad. We're trying to change that, but it's one family, one marriage, one woman at a time.
It has to be coming from a sincere and genuine place where you just say, hey, I've been thinking about these things, and I feel really bad for these things that I've done. I don't want to do these things anymore. And I just want to let you know that I love you. Like, it shouldn't be from a place of like that you're forcing it.
And this advice is for if you do have some issues in your marriage, if you don't really, and it's not really something that's kind of developed, you may just change your practice and start admiring him and accept him. And there may not necessarily need to be an apology, but for many there is. It isn't always that you need an apology, but just look at your own situation, see if that's something that would be helpful. You ladies out there are so wonderful. We have such wonderful women, and it's underscored to me all the time, every day, how women really are the gatekeepers of civilization. We care so much about the ones we love and wanting a happy, good relationship with stable families, that we're willing to work on changing ourselves and improving ourselves to try and bring that about. Women tend to be so much more humble. It's harder for men. It just really is. And there's some really wonderful, humble men too, but it's a little easier for us because we want the relationships. And that's so important in this world where we've got all these problems around us in the world. There's people suffering, starving, scared, all kinds of situations. And women are truly loving and caring. And I appreciate that so much.
Well, thank you. This has been really helpful. Thank you so much for all of your advice. And if you have any questions about this subject, please drop the comments down below. We love to hear from you. And we are very active on social media. So if you want to join our Facebook group, you should definitely click on the Facebook link attached to this video. You can join our group and ask questions and be a part of our community. It's completely free and no strings attached. And we even have the ability for you to submit things anonymously. And we are we're here every week. If there is another topic that you would like to hear from us, if we went through these 7 things and you want us to expand on something a little bit more, drop that down below too. We love to hear your suggestions. And if you haven't read Dixie's book, Fascinating Womanhood for the Timeless Woman, I'm attaching that link to this video as well. And there's also a companion workbook that goes along with the book. You should definitely look at those if you haven't already. It will help you to learn so much more about this journey towards femininity. Don't forget to check back with us. If you subscribe, you'll help our channel grow as well as know when we have a new video coming out.
Right.
And we'll see you next time.
See you
Bye.
next time. Bye.